Guys, welcome to a classic movie review of 1975's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, starring Jack Nicholson, Louise Fletcher, Christopher Lloyd and Danny DeVito. Now directed by Miloš Forman and adapted from Ken Kesey's 1962 novel of the same name. This is surely one of the most compelling and iconic films in probably cinema history. Celebrating its 50-year anniversary as of the time of this video, Cuckoo's Nest was not only met with widespread critical acclaim but also swept the major Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress and Best Adapted Screenplay. Now the film's a pretty profound exploration of individuality, authority and the human spirit. Equally hilarious and fist-clenchingly annoying, certainly in the case of Louise Fletcher's Nurse Ratched, one of cinema's great villains. Let's take a look.
Jesus, I mean, you guys do nothing but complain about how you can't stand it in this place here, and then you haven't got the guts just to walk out? I mean, what do you think you are, for Christ's sake, crazy or something?
So One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is set in a psychiatric institution and revolves around Randle McMurphy, played by Jack Nicholson. And this guy is a rebellious and free-spirited dude who escapes a prison sentence by faking insanity and is initially happy to serve his time in what he thinks will be a relatively relaxed environment of the hospital. Now basically, immediately upon arrival, McMurphy finds himself at odds with the hospital's tyrant of a head nurse, Nurse Ratched, and astonishingly effective Louise Fletcher. And what begins as a bit of a lark, an almost playful challenge to Ratched's authority, soon escalates into a full-blown battle of wills, with McMurphy rallying the other patients and encouraging them to assert their individuality and battle against the institution. Now, based on a 1962 book and coming bang in the middle of the 70s, this is one of the great anti-authoritarian films. The 70s answer to what the 50s brought with The Wild One and Rebel Without a Cause, and the 60s with Bonnie and Clyde and Cool Hand Luke. Now, personally, I constantly seesaw between this and The Shining for my favourite Jack Nicholson performance. In both movies, I feel he does what no other actor could do. As McMurphy, he has to balance charisma, defiance and vulnerability in equal measure, and his portrayal captures McMurphy's mischievous energy, perfect for Nicholson's devilish grin, but also his wits' end desperation and frustration at the world around him. He has to seemingly transition between humour and heartbreak, and he does, of course, to Oscar-winning effect. He is, of course, surrounded by more than capable supporting cast, which includes Brad Dourif as the stuttering and fragile Billy Bibbit, Danny DeVito as the quirky Martini, and Christopher Lloyd as the volatile Tabor. Each one of them getting key moments to make their mark and round out their characters. Now, of course, for many viewers, myself included, it's Will Sampson as Big Chief Bromden who leaves the most indelible impression as the seemingly mute and towering Native American patient. Now, Chief Bromden's journey from passive observer to more than active participant in the film's third act comes with a tough-to-swallow mixture of heroics and lump-in-your-throat heartbreak. Now onto that goddamn Nurse Ratched. Bless her. Louise Fletcher's portrayal of her makes her one of cinema's most memorable antagonists. If Hannibal Lecter was a woman and didn't eat people, I think that would be Nurse Ratched. Fletcher's ability here to convey absolute menace through just subtle expressions and careful dialogue is basically a masterclass in acting. Her Best Actress Oscar well deserved. Now, Ratched's chilling control over the patients, combined with a stone-faced belief in her actions, creates an uncomfortable sense of tension throughout the film. I'm sure Louise Fletcher was a lovely lady, bless her, but I'm right there along with him when McMurphy tries to strangle the life out of her in a key part of the film. Now, as I mentioned, at its core, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a story about the struggle for freedom in the face of an oppressive environment. The psychiatric hospital serves almost as a microcosm of society, Nurse Ratched embodying control and conformity, her rigid enforcement of the rules and her manipulation of the patients through basically fear and shame struck a nerve with a generation who just lived through Vietnam and the Watergate scandal and still sat in the shadow of the JFK and Martin Luther King assassinations. In One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, McMurphy's arrival disrupts the status quo. He challenges the power dynamics of the institution, and his rebellion against Nurse Ratched's authority inspires the other patients to rediscover their confidence. A mid-movie fishing trip that the patients go on is a great turning point in the story, showcasing their humanity and newfound sense of freedom and self-worth outside of the confines of the hospital. And the film's imaginary baseball game, if you know, you know, gives some momentary but short-lived euphoria. Now, no spoilers, but this will, of course, culminate in Chief Bromden's eventual ultimate act of defiance, and although the breaking free metaphor may be a tiny bit heavy-handed, it's still a powerful one. So One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was directed by the late Miloš Forman, the Czechoslovakian filmmaker who also made Amadeus, and here he brings a naturalistic style to the film. Some of it's shot almost like a fly-on-the-wall documentary, an intimacy that makes you feel more of a connection with the characters. Forman got the Best Director Oscar amongst the jaw-dropping competition of Federico Fellini, Stanley Kubrick, Sidney Lumet and Robert Altman. The movie also won Best Picture in a year when these were the nominees: Kubrick's Barry Lyndon, Lumet's Dog Day Afternoon, Altman's Nashville and Spielberg's Jaws. What a year. Last year Barbie was nominated for Best Film. Just think about that for a second and how far we've come. Now I have to shout out the film's sparse and quite eerie score, composed by Jack Nicholson, that has this haunting use of a saw blade in it, which is quite unsettling. The rest of the music is very restrained and never overpowers the performances. Now, of course, Cuckoo's Nest isn't the easiest of watches. It's a landmark in cinema because of its unflinching portrayal of institutionalisation. A time when electroconvulsive therapy was still quite widely used, I think. Lobotomies, not so much, although they do feature here. And as such, it continues to provoke discussions about mental health care and its diagnosis and treatment. Now, I have read criticism of the movie with arguments that it oversimplifies the complexities of mental illness and reinforces harmful stereotypes about psychiatric institutions. And of course, issue has been taken with the film's depiction of Nurse Ratched, viewing her as a simply one-dimensional villain rather than a nuanced character, which I only slightly agree with. I do think Louise Fletcher does enough that you see the cracks in her nasty exterior. Now, in my opinion, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is pretty much one of cinema's great dramas, scoring perfect points in storytelling, performance and direction. It asks us what is normal, certainly in a place like that hospital, and warns how dangerous going against the system can be. Jack Nicholson and Louise Fletcher's rivalry is one of film history's greatest face-offs. It can be a deeply affecting piece of cinema, so a word of warning if you're of a sensitive disposition, but that still shouldn't dissuade you from visiting or revisiting one of the greatest films of the last 50 years. Go check it out.
But I tried, didn't I? God damn it. At least I did that.